Hey guys, in this one we're talking about agent inputs. So when you come into n8n and you type in AI agent and you grab one right here, by default, what it's going to be looking in right here, the source for prompt. So this is the user message. What it's looking for is the connected chat trigger node. So right here it's hooked up to that, but chat trigger node, which is this thing, right? This is how we actually talk to it. Let me just move this stuff over here so it's a little more easier to digest. But this is what we're looking for, right? We'll give it a chat model. If we say hi in this little window down here, we send that off. We can see that this worked because on the left is what we're getting. So the chat trigger node right here, we're getting a session ID, an action, and a chat input. And so right here, it's looking for JSON.chat input, and it's going to get our actual message that we typed in this little chat window. So that's all fine. It works. But if we're not using a chat trigger, I see a lot of people will just like, oh, okay, I want to feed my email into this agent. And, not always is it going to be exactly a trigger, go straight into an agent. Sometimes we're cleaning data. Sometimes we're passing in an agent's output to another agent, whatever it is. But the idea of this video is that you need to dynamically pass in whatever is actually coming through. So if I was to test this trigger right here, we're getting an email, right? So in this case, we're getting a ID, a thread, a snippet, a payload, all this other information because it's simplified. So let's say we turn off simplified fetch test event again. Now we're getting the actual like HTML full text content of our email. So let's say this is what we want the agent to actually look at because this is the email. All we have to do is into the agent, we're going to set up the source for the prompt for the user message. So instead of doing connected chat trigger node, because as you can see, if we ran this, it would error because it has nothing to look at. We want to change this to define below. And then all we have to do is come on the left-hand side and say, okay, what do we actually want the agent to look at? We would just close out of all this nonsense until we can find the actual text of the email, which is right here. We're just going to drag it straight in. And now the agent's getting the email that we want it to look at, as you can see right over here. So now it would be able to, that was a system prompt I was playing around with just for an experiment. But anyways, now we can test step and it's going to read the email and respond with something. There's no system prompt, so it's probably just going to say like, it's just basically saying, it looks like you've received a notification about n8n Cloud. If you're authorized, do this, however, blah, blah, blah. So it's just responding to that email. But that's how it got that input. So same thing, right? Let's say we connected the Slack trigger, where let's say if we run this, it's listening for us real quick. So let me come into here and say, what's up? Tell me a joke. I always seem to use that example. Anyways, this should be getting the message. So we see again, we have user, type, we have all this stuff. But all we want really is to get the text to the agent, which would actually be right here. So not up here, but this is actually the clean text that we want. So this time it's not going to be able to look at, if it's looking at json.text, which we previously had set up for the email agent, I mean, it's going to work because it's green, but it's not actually what we want to feed in. So I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to look for the actual thing we want, which is right here, which is being referenced differently. But this is what's up, tell me a joke, which is what we said. So now I can hit test step. It's going to analyze this information. Here's one, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. I think that's like the most default joke when you throw something at an AI model. Either that or something about skeletons that don't have guts. So that's that, right? And then finally, like if we connected a Telegram trigger, and now I hit fetch test event, and actually I need to pull up Telegram real quick. And now I'm saying, hey, we're getting that message and it's coming through down here. If we come in here, we can see it's undefined because this is not how it's referencing it from Telegram. Delete this, we would drag in the text over here, and now every time we get a message from Telegram, it is going to be dynamically pulled in. So that's how that works, right? So a common mistake is by default, this is on connected chat trigger, which is only going to work if you're pulling in messages from a connected chat trigger. Now let's take a look at this workflow over here. So this is one that I actually built to respond to a question in the community where he was testing with Telegram. I think end result, he wants to be able to work in Telegram. But when you're in the testing environment, sometimes it's easier to just chat with your agent right in here and get the result right here, rather than every time having to hit test workflow, pull up Telegram, write a query, and then get the response of Telegram. So he said, how can I have either this one, how can I have either trigger work and feed in to the agent no matter what, multimodal, have it work. And basically, This is a little more advanced over here. But if it's a Telegram trigger that starts the workflow, I want to get a response in Telegram. And if it's a chat trigger that restarts the workflow, I want to get a response in N8N. So here's the workaround, right? I'll show a quick demo and then we will actually look at what's going on. So I hit test workflow. So Telegram's looking for a message. I'll say, tell me a joke. We'll see if we get the same one about atoms. And it's going to go through, and then it goes down this branch. And you guys can't see my Telegram because I'm only sharing this window. But what it said was, why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired. This message was sent automatically by N8N. So this was really a joke, right? So actually, that's kind of a good joke. I haven't heard that yet from an AI model. So as you can see, it went on the path to go to Telegram. And now let's try chatting in the window here. Tell me a joke. The agent's going to get the message once again, and then it responds to us down here. So why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in this field. That's also another good one. Anyways, what we're doing here is we're just referencing a field called json.message.text. And so we were able to basically dynamically set both of these, no matter what, to json.message.text. So the way I did that is let me go to the execution real quick. So when a message comes through in Telegram, by default, it's json.message.text. So we just map that straight in. And then we knew, okay, well, all we have to do is make the chat trigger chat input. We just have to change this to json.message.text so that it feeds in as well. So right here, we're getting chat input. And if we turn it to JSON, you can see it's right there. And then I just am setting the field. So I'm dragging in the chat input, and I'm just manually setting it so that it always comes out in a field called message.text. That way, and here you can see that we got it from over here. And in the previous example with Telegram, we also still got that. So let's look at another execution now. Actually, I'll just go live and we'll test it again. I'm just going to say hi. It's getting the message no matter what. And then we have this if statement. So in the if statement, I'm saying, does the Telegram trigger, because if I have this thing to start the JSON variable call, it means that we're looking within a Telegram node. So let me show you something real quick. If I make this an expression, I type our two curly braces. That means we're going to do an expression. JSON means we're returning the input from the most previous node. But earlier, right here, you can see we have earlier nodes. So we can reference something from the AI agent, from the edit fields, from the Telegram trigger. So all I did here was I clicked on Telegram trigger, and then I was able to use these periods to drill down to what I need, right? So anyways, all we're doing here is we're getting the chat ID that comes from the Telegram trigger. So I'll go over to Telegram trigger real quick. Along with all this stuff we get update ID, message ID, chat ID, right? So we're looking to see if chat ID exists. If chat ID exists, that means that this workflow was triggered by Telegram, because if it doesn't exist, that means that we talk to it through the chat trigger. So all we're saying here is if the chat trigger exists, we're going to send it down the true branch, which goes to a response in Telegram. If it doesn't exist, it's going to go down the false branch, and it's going to do nothing, which just means that it's going to send it back to us in this window. And one thing that I had to do here that was important is I had to make it continue on error, because let's see, if we turn this setting off, we make it stop the workflow, and then we try to chat with it in here, it's basically going to error because it's going to say we can't, this like function or this if statement doesn't work because Telegram trigger wasn't executed, so it doesn't exist. So we're unable to like take action. So all we have to do is turn this on. Instead of, if it errors, we don't want to stop the workflow. We just want to continue the workflow. Now we will chat again, and it's going to error, but it's just going to push it down the false branch because it knows that, okay, it errored, but we're just going to keep moving data through. So I hope that clears up some stuff about inputs, dynamic inputs, how you can pull something back and only give your agent a little bit of information. Like in this case, we're getting all this, but we just wanted to look at the text. Or in this case with the Gmail trigger, we are getting so much nonsense back. If I go to table view, we're getting all this nonsense back. And if I go to schema view, all of this, right? But all we want the agent to actually read is the text that's right here. So we can just drag in this field right there. So that's agent inputs. The next one we'll talk about agent outputs.